Wanted to kind of go through the steps in the process of making your own home brew, ways and means that you can get it. First thing you need to do, obviously, is get organized. And you need to start your own brew Bible or your own brew book or however you want to refer to it. And this is where you keep all your documentation and everything you do about your brews. You've got to document everything you're doing, because if you do have a successful brew, you want to be able to replicate that. You also want to be able to find out the mistakes you did from the last one. So the next step is going to be getting a sanitized and clean area. You want to make sure everything within your process has been sanitized, thoroughly cleaned with hot water. I use a bleach solution and water, and then I also use a chemical sanitizer that's a non-oxidizer that I purchased. My main company that I purchased my kit and everything was from Williams Brewing. There are several kits out there on the market throughout. I have found Williams to be pretty accurate on their brew process and what they have to offer. Very convenient, very good customer service, and very speedy on getting you your product, which when you buy your first batch of beer, that's always the best. So we're going to take a little break here, and I'm going to get things assembled, and we'll be right back. All right, first things first when we get started. Again, we're using a Williams Brewing kit. Today we're going to be brewing a honey cream ale. That's going to be the starting product. And basically you get in your kit, you get an activator of yeast. And this has a little pouch inside of it. You break it open and it activates the yeast. As you can see, the bag is rather swollen. This bag comes to you flat. After you activate it, it swells 1.5 times. This is about 48 hours of rise. Typically within 24 you're ready to go. I just wasn't ready to do that. You do get instructions on how to brew the beer, and this is like brewing beer for idiots. It just basically walks you through all the brew process. Where your part comes in, again, is in the documentation. In your kit, you've got priming sugar, and this is for afterwards to create the carbonation within your beer. You have your hops, which you'll add through the brew process, and we'll go through the adding of the hops as we do that. The real secret of beer is the malt. That's what gives it its body, its flavor. This is what has a lot of the sugars in it that activate the yeast to produce the alcohol within your beer. And truthfully, the malt, along with the hops, is what adds the flavor and what adds that extra touch to your beer. So if you have a good malt base and a good hops base, chances are you're probably going to have a good beer. For the honey cream, we do have honey. This is a clover honey that's provided by Williams Brewing. So that's what you're going to see in a kit. You want to make sure you have a good open environment for your beer. You want to make sure that you're able to have it to where you can get water all over the place. Beer is kind of wet and messy, and you do make little messes all over the place. So next we're going to go to getting the fermenter out and the process of getting all the tools necessary, and we're going to get those sterilized, and then I'm going to walk you through each one of those. Okay, as we talked about before, we're going to sanitize our product. So we've gone through and we've sanitized the fermenting tank, all the little valves, the gaskets, and everything. And basically the main sanitizer I use, you can get crazy and buy kit sanitizers and everything else. If you want to do that, that's fine. I use tried and true bleach water, and it's 1 cup of bleach to 1 gallon of water. And that's a pretty strong solution of bleach, so you want to make sure you don't get it on your clothes or anything, because it will discolor your clothing. The other thing I use, and it's a sanitizer that you get from Williams Brewing, and it's basically a non-oxidizing type of sanitizer, and it's good for sanitizing your beer bottles and that afterwards. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll sanitize it with bleach, wash it out thoroughly, and then I go ahead and run it again with the sanitizer. Again, we don't want any bacteria in our beer, because what's going to happen is if we get a bacteria or a bacteria buildup around any of our plugs, our fine threads, or anything like that, it's going to impart a bitter taste to the beer. And so far this process has worked very good for me. This is about the 10th batch of beer I've brewed. I've not had any problem with my fermenting tanks, but I'm very diligent about making sure that prior to and after any of the brewing process that I do, everything is sanitized, and then I keep it in a clean location. Another thing, Americans are Americans. We love our pets. We like having them around. Your area really has to be free of pet hair and pets. If you've got it on your clothing or whatnot, wear an apron. Make sure you don't impart that into the water or into your any part of your brewing process. Tools that you're going to need through the process. Pretty much the beginning is a thermometer. This is the thermometer that comes with the base kit that you get from the company that I purchased. And you need a hydrometer. After the beer is done, we'll take a hydrometer reading, and we'll get the initial hydrometer reading, and then we'll take 2 more hydrometer readings through the process over the brew period that's stated in the instructions. And what that's going to do is that's going to tell me my beginning, it's going to tell me my end, and from that I can find the alcohol percentage of my beer. And it's also going to let me know that the fermentation process is stopped. Once your fermentation process is stopped, then you can add your priming sugars in for your carbonation, bottle your beer, and you won't have exploding bottles, and that's the purpose of it. And another thing you'll need is a vial, and this is for the hydrometer. Basically, the beer goes inside, and again, this needs to be cleaned and sterilized a little better, but the beer goes inside, and you drop your hydrometer in and you take your initial readings. And I'll show you how to do that as we go through the process. So we've sterilized our stuff. We're ready to go. We filled the brew kettle, which is here, full of water, and basically it's about 4 gallons of water. I've kind of got my own little niche that I like to have with my water, and I'm probably about 4.5 gallons of water. We are brewing inside. I do have a propane bottle attached to my heating source here, which quite frankly came off of an old smoker. I mean, it just works good. The one thing you want to keep in mind, though, we are indoors, so you want to have proper ventilation. You want to make sure you have good ventilation in your house, because you're going to get too much carbon monoxide buildup if you do that, and bad things happen when you get carbon monoxide buildup. So you want to be aware of your environment when you're brewing. So we're going to get the water to a boil. Typically, I like to get my water to 200 degrees. Now, I'm sitting at about 5,500 feet of elevation. I do live up in the mountains, and so it does take a little bit more. So it's going to be specific to your environment. But basically, you want to get a good boil going in the pot. And for me, it takes about 200 to about 215 degrees right in there, and it seems to be a good enough boil. Once that process is started, we'll add the malt, and we'll actually start our pitch. We'll start brewing. So the next segment's going to be going on adding the malt and what we need to do there.